up a half hour.
If it was up to me, we would have gone up a full hour, but
I know. Good,
I'd
it's
gone
good,
up-
good
I'd gone up 3
compromise.
hours.
So Mr. Bolt and I will already be there. So if we could, we'll notice that. Dave, if you could help, or Robert could just help, that we notice that this next meeting is going to be at 6:25 on Tuesday. It will be in the conference room. If we meet live, has it been determined yet if we're meeting live or via Zoom Tuesday night?
The mayor determined that we will meet via Zoom.
Okay, so we'll need a Zoom room for 6:25.
I'll make sure Tina knows. She's probably on this call anyway.
Okay, great.
public safety is supposed to meet at 6 o'clock that night.
And Tina, if you just want to do the link for general committee starting at 6:31, we can we'll just start general committee early, and I'll call it the community allocations committee meeting for the first few minutes.
Okay, so could you go over that nightly schedule for me one more time?
Sure. General committee has its regular meeting Tuesday night at 6:30. But if you will open up that link 5 minutes prior, we'll have a short nonprofit committee meeting before that. There's just no reason to schedule two, because we'll go straight from one into the other.
Gotcha. And BOMA still starts at 7, correct?
Yes.
Perfect. Just to give you guys a little update, nobody else even knows this yet, but I'm so excited I can't keep it to myself. We just got it working to where we can have anything in that room, in the big meeting room, live on YouTube, live on Channel 3, and in the meeting room all at the same time. Just got it working this afternoon.
That's great.
Really excited.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Good job.
Perfect.
We're going to have an in-person BOMA?
No. We got 3 or 4 that don't want to meet.
No, we're still going to be Zoom Tuesday night. So let's get to the business at hand. We did have a couple that we still had outstanding questions about. I'm going to go ahead and answer what I found out. The first one is Sumner County CASA. They had made a request of $4,000, which is an increase over last year's funding of $2,500. Spoke with the lady at CASA, their executive director. She said the reason for the ask is they're seeing an increased number of children from Hendersonville coming through the court system. It's getting now to where it's about equal to what they're seeing from Gallatin, and Gallatin is funding them at $4,000. I explained what our situation was with her on this, and that I completely understand what they're doing, and she has some good advocates on this committee, but also explained what our budget situation was this year. So her response is that they would be happy to get whatever they could get.
Can I speak on that?
Yes, sir.
Say
Please
something.
do. I was hoping, when I was speaking of good advocates.
Well, I did text one of the employees there today, and she said they did have to cancel their event. They're hoping to do some virtual fundraising, but you know how that goes. I mean, I don't know how much they'll raise, and they do not know yet how much they're going to be requesting from the county, and it might not be till October.
Okay. 4 is what they get from Gallatin. I'm going to kind of speak in just general what my thoughts are. I'm going to propose, after we go through these first that we had some open questions about, I'm going to propose that we actually make no additions of agencies this year, and that we be extremely stingy at any increases, and even consider some rollbacks. So I just wanted to put that in context so it doesn't catch anybody by surprise when we talk about these agencies. So I'm open to any discussion or any question or any motion regarding their request of $4,000 versus last year's $2,500.
Well, I didn't raise my hand, but can I
Yes, ma'am.
speak?
Yeah, everyone just keep their mics open. We're cool.
Okay, all right. I didn't know how formal we were going to get here.
Well, there's just a few of us. Not you, Dave. You keep muted.
And like I expressed at our last meeting, with the way things are, and no tax increase, our revenues are slim, we're a bare bones budget. I think we either need to keep the bottom line the same as last year or less. So that's how I advocate for this whole deal.
Is that a motion to keep them at 2,500, which was last year's number?
Yes. Yes.
Is there a second for that motion? I will second. So we have a motion on the floor has been seconded to reduce the budgeted 4,000, which is the request, to last year's number of 2,500. Any other discussion about this? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Mrs. Cunningham,
Yes.
Mr. Bolt,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
and I'll make that unanimous. That's 4-0, 4-0. That's going to be 2,500.
I wish we could do more, though.
No.
Complete, like, yes.
Wish we could
The
do a lot of
second one
things.
was Mid-Cumberland Human Resource. Their request is $10,951. Last year's number was $8,250. Their request is on 3 line items. First one is the Ombudsman program. They're only asking $800 for that portion. The Homemaker Services is $4,500 of that request. And then $5,650.92 is for dues. And that is calculated. I talked with someone from the agency this is almost going to be a repeat of the discussion we had last year. Those dues are calculated on a per capita rate of 11 cents per resident. And those are the things that just help them with their funding and keeping the money that goes to the programs go directly to the programs for services within Hendersonville. The dues are the things that help them with their overhead, with being able to, with the employees and all the additional services that they have to provide that are required for them to do the service. But what's said is a dues program of 11 cents per resident. I'm going to propose we do not pay the dues because they assess Sumner County for the entire county. And as I pointed out to the lady I spoke with, everyone who lives in Hendersonville lives in Sumner County. And she said she understood that argument. And that's basically what we did last year. So my proposal is that we reduce their request. Well, if it's okay, I'm going to make the motion unless somebody else would like to make it. It's not typical for the chair to make a motion. But I'm going to make a motion to reduce the $10,950.92 by $5,650.92, which will take them down to $5,300.
And what did we pay, what did we do last year?
$82.50.
So we're reducing them by 3,000 or
We're
something?
reducing them by 3,000, but we are fully funding the line items for the Homemaker Services and the Ombudsman program. The actual.
I'll second that.
There was a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All right, we got a motion and a second to reduce the budgeted line item of $10,951 to $5,300. It has been seconded. Let's do a roll call vote. Mrs. Cunningham,
Yes.
Mr. Bolt,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
and I will make that unanimous. Mr. Robinson, I know that you are muted and you're videoed and you're not, but I'm going to open it up. If there's ever any time you would like to have discussion after the members of the committee, feel free to step in at any time. Also, Mr.
Well, thank
Gilly
you. I'm
and
just-
Chief Bush, if there's some time, we're going to move pretty quickly through this, but if you do want to say something, don't be afraid to unmute and just say something and I'll recognize you.
Thank you.
All right, those were the 2 outstanding questions that we had that I had marked from the previous meeting. The next one that I'd like to look at is at the bottom under new applicants. We had Run Hendersonville, and we had recommended not approving their application to add. The second one was one for Grace Place Ministry for $10,000, and we reduced that by $5,000.
Can I speak
Yeah,
or are you
please.
still
Let's
going?
just open that up for discussion.
Okay, Alderman Bolt, did you speak with Mauricio Sanchez about that Run Hendersonville?
I did, and I guess I misunderstood because I thought we were going to move forward. It got pulled back, but we were doing something in kind. Andy, do you remember what is that?
Yes, sir. I talked to Mr. Sanchez and told him what you all said is that I would agree to allocate $1,500 out of our special events line item in the parks
Yes.
budget to give to them, for him to just let me know what that needed to go towards. At the time I talked to him, it was going to be for trophies for the Waiteca Cup, which he said that he asked for 2,500 because that's what the price that first place trophy had given him for trophies for the Waiteca Cup. So I told him, well, right now I've been instructed to allocate 1,500, so that'll at least get you part of the way. And I told him probably need to, if it's me buying it, I'm going to call and get different prices from 2 or 3 different places.
Yeah.
Good catch, Andy. Andy's, I should say, both of them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That
He
makes
was
sense.
okay. Mr. Sanchez was good with that.
Yes.
I did, the 2,500 amount did come from what he needed to have for the big trophies. That's what he said. But I'll help him with anything legitimate. I mean, I think I told y'all before, we've been spending $400 or $500 out of the park's special events towards Porta Johns for the turkey trot. So I'd be glad to change that over to trophies and get out of the Porta John business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so our allocation would be 0 out of the nonprofits.
Yes,
Correct.
and that's what we have right now. So there's no action required to leave it like that.
We did the exact similar thing last year with Holiday Fest when they asked for 10,000. You all moved it to special events, and we took care of it out of our office.
Mhm.
All right. Any discussion about Grace Place Ministry? They had requested 10. That would be a new $10,000. They were not a recipient previous years.
Oh,
And
Mr.
we
Chairman,
had reduced that to 5.
Mr. Chairman, if I could speak to that.
Please.
It's funny because I ran into somebody today about Grace Place, and all of you can reiterate this. It's the only place right now in this area or in Hendersonville that battered women can go to get help or get away from a bad situation and so on. So I'm not in favor of adding new ones. I'm not in favor of adding any money to anybody else's. But you know what? At some point in time during this situation, we cut one of them 3,000. We're holding the line on everything else. I'm not really opposed to adding this new one at half of what they asked for, just because it's the only one that takes care of the battered women right now. And there's a lot of domestic stuff going on, as we know. And Chief Miller and Chief Jones tell me every day that domestics are up in Hendersonville a lot. So just food for thought.
Sounds good.
We good with leaving it like that?
Yeah.
5,000?
Yeah.
As long as the bottom line is going to stay the same or less.
Well, we just cut 5,600.
I know.
So
Mhm.
we're that helps a little bit. All right. The next group, I believe there's no other action. Robert, there's no other action required on anything else unless we decide we want to take it.
Correct.
Okay. So here's what we need to do. These are some things I think we need to consider. My strategy has always been not to cut existing money. If someone's gotten used to the money, they may have hired someone for a program. They may have brought on, if it was homebound meals, they may have added 20 people to the route because of the funds. I hate to cut existing money. Because it could have cut existing programs when we could cut new money that would just stop an expansion, a future expansion. I think that would have less effect. So one of the things I'd like for us to look at is if we did have any increases that we put in there, if there's anything that we may want to look at cutting there. For example, the STARS program. They do great work. But that right there, those are 3 line items right there that we can just cut them back to last year's number, not even taking them back to fiscal year 19. Because the next thing I'm going to say we should look at is if we don't get enough cut from taking people back just to their fiscal year 20 number, do we gain some additional cuts if we do want to cut any additional money? I'm sorry, if we want to cut any existing money, the next level, I would think if we were to do that, as much as I would hate to do it, would be cutting people back to their fiscal year 19 money. In other words, just taking back increases we gave last year. Those are some ideas, and I'm open to discussion. Mrs. Cunningham, I saw your hand.
Thank you. The STARS program, have they spent as much money this year with school being out for such a long period of time? How are they allocating those funds?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I apologize.
Okay.
And this
I'm just
application
saying that
this
yeah.
application probably came in, Robert, before
It did.
schools were
it
dismissed.
sure did. It sure did. So, I mean, are they going to have some funds left over because of that fact to start into their new year, July 1st? So I wouldn't, that's just something a question.
Well, if we were to take them back to the fiscal year 20 numbers, that would be the 3 line items combined would be $5,000. We would still be funding them 24. We would still be funding them $33,000.
Andy, Gilly, would you have any idea about that?
Just if I can, I can speak to it a little bit, what I
Jeremy?
know.
Okay.
Yes, please yes, please.
To my knowledge, the money that we use, that we give the STARS program is to help fund the salaries of the counselors that are in the schools. So to my knowledge, everybody, kind of like at the city, everybody was kept whole throughout this time with their salary. So I would doubt that they're carrying over funds to the next year.
Unless they were paying those folks hourly.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. I do know when they came to us about adding funds to Station Camp a few years ago, that was for us to increase the counseling service that was at Station Camp.
Mhm.
That's why we did that. So I don't know the answer, but I do think what the schools give goes towards the salaries for the counselors at the schools.
Yes, it does. That was something I negotiated with them a few years ago when I found out that the schools we were funding, in addition to what the county was doing, were not receiving higher levels of service. So our schools do now have counselors there more, in some cases, 5 days a week. And that's not the cases in cities that their cities are not adding to the county funding. We are supplementing county services.
That is true. Those 3 schools have an on-site person that's there 5 days a week. Plus they have a county person that rotates in for programming, where some of the other schools just have the county person that rotates between 5 or 6 schools to do the same things. If that is about as clear as mud.
Thanks, Andy. I know that you're in the thick of it there for most of your career.
If I can ask a question, Alderman Sprouse.
Please do.
I mean, if they catch wind that we're cutting, we're keeping it to where it was, couldn't the county, couldn't the Board of Education include that as part of their budget and try to get those funds from the county?
You broke up there a little bit for me. Were you saying that if we cut our funds, they could ask for an increase from the county?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If we cut it by 5 and we go ahead and let them know, couldn't they make that request from the county, or Board of Education make the request from the county?
I'm sure that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Is there anyone want to make a motion?
So we're taking this from, we're showing that are we talking about the same thing where they've asked for 14 and we cut them back to 12? Is that what?
Yes, hold on a second.
We've already covered.
We've already cut them. I'm reading the wrong column.
Yeah, we've done all 3 of those.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was reading the wrong column.
And
Then,
I don't want to do any more, so.
let me make
Oh,
sure.
Me neither.
I apologize. Okay, the next one that was an increase from last year to this year is Jason Foundation. 19, we gave them 3,500. 20, we gave them 5,000. We currently have them at 7,500. It would be a 50% increase over this year, and we would be giving them over 100% increase from the previous year.
I think we leave it the same as last year.
That's a motion to take them down to 5,000. That's a cut of 2,500. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Edwards has seconded. Is there any discussion? There being a motion and a second, indicate, call your name. Mrs. Cunningham,
Yes.
Mr. Bolt,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
That makes 4-0. You get that, Robert?
I did, yes.
Okay, 5,000.
Mm.
Who yawned?
Is it past your
I-
bedtime?
I had sleep much last night, so.
Right. The next one is Sumner Teen Center. They had requested 5,000. Last year was 3,000. In our previous meeting, we had said 4,000.
How much did we say Gallatin gives them? Do you know?
I got the packet here. If you give me a second, I can find what they're
Yeah, let
asking.
me look at it.
Mm.
5,000.
What'd you say, Robert?
It was $5,000.
5,000.
What are they, 50-50, Gallatin and Hendersonville?
They're about 1/3 Gallatin, 1/3 Hendersonville, 1/3 the rest of the county.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Oh, thank-
Robert.
Bert,
You're very welcome.
so that 5,000 for Gallatin, is that what they're requested from Gallatin, or is that what they're actually getting from Gallatin?
I believe that that's their budget request from Gallatin, but they did get funds from Gallatin last year.
Yeah, I can show you last year's if you'd like.
Well, how much was it, Robert? Do you remember?
I
not-
don't remember, but if you'll give me one moment. I
Not that you
can-
remember. I mean, I didn't mean that.
I'm good, but I'm not that good. Let's see.
I am, again, just in disclosure, I sit on their board. I'm not compensated for that service. But I did last year have a very serious conversation about them needing to get money from other sources if they wanted Hendersonville to continue funding.
Well, I may have-
Looks like they got 4,000 from Gallatin.
three.
No, 3.
Yeah, I had a different sheet up. I had the wrong one up for a second.
And 2,500 from us, or did we give them 3,000 last year?
They requested 2,500 from us.
Yeah.
I think in 19, and we gave them 2,500. Last year we gave them 3,000.
Did they get any other grants, Scott? I remember they had announced some kind of grant that they got.
They do get grants. Their grants tend to be program driven. So someone will pay for an arts program, like the state of Tennessee pays for the driver education.
Driver
program.
ed, yeah, I remember that.
They're the expenses they get from they get from the city of Hendersonville and Gallatin and county go to things like rent and salaries. They have sometimes with their grants, they can say, well, 5% of our space this month goes towards this program, and they try to get those covered by those grants. But as with so many of these agencies, the money that we provide goes to operational expenses, the things that you can't put a plaque on or give somebody, put on the back of a t-shirt for a donor.
Mhm. I know they do some really good work. But
I think you need to leave them where they were last year, since we're doing that with everybody else. It's not
I'll
really.
take that as a motion to reduce them to 3,000 from the current 4,000.
I'll second.
And there's a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the reduction from the current 4,000 to 3,000 indicate by saying aye when I call your name. Mrs. Cunningham,
Aye.
Mr. Ball,
Aye.
Mr. Edwards.
Aye.
And I make that 4-0. Robert, I think that covers all the increases. Have I missed anything?
No, I think, I believe you're correct. That's all I've got.
We were able to confirm, if y'all remember Hat's Rainbow Preschool, we did confirm that that was a typo. So you will see that they're in the budget for 2,000. And Robert, if we need to go back on this updated spreadsheet and under the fiscal year 21 request, if we could make that 2,000 as well.
Yes, sir.
So that's actually not going to be a recommended increase. That's just going to be a pass through because that's the same thing they got last year.
That's right.
How have we affected the requests so far? What's our current total?
You have reduced $10,650.92 just in this meeting, excuse me.
Okay. What's our new total for nonprofit 501c3 special agencies?
One moment and I'll have that to you. Trying to make sure I got everything, didn't miss anything, so I didn't do a running
Okay.
this month or this meeting.
Hey, don't worry about it. I asked for a 5-minute discussion of something we did in the last meeting. So biggest mistake of the week goes to me right now.
That's good. You'll give me one moment, I'll have that to you.
Dave, you know, the car wash place is also between your office and home. So I guess you could have bought her something there.
No, I took her there Sunday after going to watching a church service online.
I've seen David's car wash. Yep.
I got stuck in that car wash for 7 minutes.
Literally, or your car?
No, literally, I was in the car. The car got stuck in there.
I got you. I'm just being a smarty pants.
The new total is 270,200 for all nonprofits, which is a reduction of 2,950 over last year.
Oh,
That's good.
okay.
Okay. Well, I may upset this with the next thing I'm going to ask for. Let's go to the first page. With Forward Sumner, we cut them 5,000. From 5,000 the last 2 years to 0 this year. I had about an hour conversation with a couple of people from Forward Sumner today. It was a very productive conversation. Let's just say that they are experiencing some of the same difficulties that we are experiencing in Hendersonville. Mr. Lamarve is going to be engaged with some of the things that they're doing and included with some of the notifications, particularly stuff having to do with transportation plans that we're currently working with Marshall, just so Dave or whoever the city administrator is aware of what the projects are that they're working on and can help with that information and help keep those pieces all together. When we're talking about the lobbyist who's working for us on behalf of TDOT, I myself raised the question in budget workshop about why in the world would the city of Hendersonville need a lobbyist to work especially, work with the General Assembly, especially when one of the representatives for the city of Hendersonville is the majority leader of the House. Lobbyist is not the best term for what this gentleman is doing. This gentleman is not going through the lobbying process, that stereotypically you would think of going and knocking on doors and trying to gather votes. He's more of a consultant. He's more of someone who's working with TDOT through the process, through the engineering process. He knows how to package. It's almost like sometimes when we hire a grant writer, or we had a grant writer who's able to know the language of that, who's able to work with those. It's like sometimes when people hire consultants to come work with the city of Hendersonville, it's not because they're necessarily trying to garner any votes. It's because they know how, those are people who know how to work with our planning department and our codes department and our public works department. They're more acting as a consultant. I think with the combination of the work that they're providing with us, particularly on the 386 project, and that work is reducing. If you've noticed, there hasn't been as much pressure on us recently for the for exit 8 exchange, because they're asking for that to be considered as part of the 386 project. That's helping us. What they're primarily doing for Hendersonville are the transportation plan, workforce development, and quite frankly, there is a little bit of a I don't want to say symbolic. There's something important about Hendersonville, even if it's a $5,000 contribution, the city making a contribution. It's no different, I think, than when we look at these agencies requesting money from us and we say, what did they get from Gallatin? What did they get from the county? What did they get from the other cities? They proved to me in the conversation that it's worth the $5,000. Had some very frank discussions about what they need to do with us to make that more visible. So these hour conversations are not necessary. So y'all should be looking forward, aldermen and staff should be looking forward to more regular updates. Some of those would probably be coming through Mr. Lamar or the next city administrator. So that's their practice has been. The reason we have not been receiving a lot of information from them is they typically do not work with the legislative bodies on this in the county or the city. They work through the mayors and the county executive. And so Mr. Lamar is going to be included in some of those communications. And so we will be briefed appropriately. But quite frankly, someone not from TDOT not asking us every other week, when are we going to write a big check for exit 8? That alone is worth $5,000 a year.
Well, just to reiterate, Mr. Chairman, I haven't received any emails or combination seat. I haven't received feed on a lot of things from TDOT, if anything, at this point. So I have no valuable information at all on what's going on. So I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I think you guys can read between the lines.
Yeah, I think that Dave, as of about 2 o'clock today, your name has been added to some distribution list. I'm going to make a motion to restore the $5,000, which is about 1/3 that we have given them in previous years, but the exact same amount we've given them the last 2 years.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
How much does the IDB give them?
The IDB gives them 18.
Okay, so that's a nice little chunk that they're getting from us.
Yes. There is a motion and there's a second to restore the 5,000. Do a roll call. Mrs. Cunningham,
Yes.
Mr. Bolt,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
and I will make that 4-0 to restore the 5,000. We have on this list I'm looking at my notes. I don't have the new spreadsheet. Did we cut the chamber to 75?
No. No. Oh. I don't think so.
I don't know. I had this written down, so I was just trying to.
Well, I have the list that Robert sent us
I don't have anything.
Yeah, that may have just been a note from discussion the first meeting. I did not print up and updated that from that first sheet.
Correct.
I have, we're
So-
giving them 15,000, same as last year.
So are we now at 275, Robert?
2000, yeah, 275, 200, yes.
So we have a little over 2,000 to cut to get to where we were last year.
I
I
thought,
don't know if that's gonna make a huge difference. Is that 0.02% of our entire budget, Robert? Am I doing that math right?
I think the fact that we're going to increase it may just be the issue here.
It's about a half a percent.
It would be a decrease. I'm not saying this to advocate a position either way. This is just informational. That increase would be a decrease had we not added Grace Place. That's it.
Well, do we decrease them then?
I'm not going to advocate one way or the other. I'll be happy to open discussion on either one of those. I can defend either position because if it's something that's not being served in this community right now, but then at the same time, let's look at their overall budget.
Put that up on the screen.
Doesn't Ashley's Place also help the battered women?
Dave, is that better?
Yeah,
Yes, their budget, their current projected fund balance is $262,000. With estimated revenue for this year of $438,000.
So they do get some grant.
I think I'm for keeping Grace Place with what we decided at 5,000. And even though we want to try not to be over last year, to Russ's point, it's minuscule difference. So I'm not sure it's worth going back and cutting something from somebody that's not getting an increase already anyway, just to come up with $2,000 to balance it, but from what it was last year. But I'll go along with the crowd.
How about we do this? I'll give a report Tuesday to the board of well, Dave, are you good with adding all these to the budget that's going to be presented to the board?
yes, sir. And one thing I'll say, there's some small increases in some of the line items and some of the different budgets in the city. And I'm okay with, I think adding Grace Place because of what they do, keeping everybody else status quo. I think that the bottom line of the $2,000, I know we had a meeting and Mr. Gilly's on here and he and I close enough, I can say this, he came in there and we got another 20,000 today, but we left some things in there that were a little bit more than last year just because of the need for those items to be left in there. So some of the budget items, codes is a little bit less and some of those handies is a little bit more because he just needed some. So I'm okay with leaving the 2,000 in there. I don't think.
The reason why I ask is procedural, because with the mayor in years past being the sponsor of the budget, he was given the option of taking any committee's recommendation and making it part of what he presented to the board. If he did not accept a committee's recommendation, then one of the first things we would have to do when we consider the budget is ask the board to vote to add it to the agenda. Add it to the budget
No,
to
I'm
make
okay
the
with-
amendments.
I'm okay
So if
with
Dave is going to add these, we have no reason to ask the board to make a change when it comes before us Tuesday night. But I will be prepared to answer questions if someone on the board does want to know why we have a slight increase.
Correct. I'm good with that.
Your answer can be that would be if we're talking about $2,000, that's 0.004% of our $50 million
Yes.
budget.
that we
Yeah.
cut others to the point that we're actually under what last year's is. And if anyone would like to make the motion to reduce $5,000 for a battered woman's shelter, they're welcome to make the motion.
That's right. I agree.
I mean, it's a good program she has there.
Yes.
I'll tell you
All
something.
right. Well, if there's no action to take on that, the final action that the last thing we have is everyone's okay with making, if we have a motion to take this list as amended as the recommendation for the budget, and Dave will incorporate it into the budget document that comes to us Tuesday night.
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Cunningham made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call vote. Mrs. Cunningham,
Yes.
Mr. Bolt,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. We stand adjourned. I'm sorry, now I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mrs. Cunningham is seconded. Mrs. Cunningham, would you like to vote?
Yes.
Mr. Bolt,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
and I vote yes, and I still have some Diet Dr. Pepper left in the can. So we hit the calendar.
And I have
Robert,
time to cook dinner.
I'll be over.
Yeah.
Robert, you got everything you need?
I do.
Thank you very much for keeping the spreadsheets for us on that and updating that as we needed it.
Thank y'all. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Dave, and
Good night.
Thanks for your work on this, Scott.
glad
Yeah,
to do
thank
it.
you, Scott.
Glad to do
Appreciate
it.
it.
Thanks, bye.
Y'all have a good one.
Mr. Bolt, I'll call you later. I need to
Okay.
talk.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
All
Good
right.
night.
Bye.
See you guys. Thanks.